Have you ever felt like you were dropped into a moment that was already waiting for you, like the scene was set before you even arrived? You're not here by coincidence. The very fact that you're reading these words means something in your reality has already shifted. The observer effect is not just a physics principle tucked away in textbooks. It's alive, active, and shaping the fabric of your everyday life. And if you've noticed strange loops, repeating signs, or the eerie sensation that your life is being watched, then it may already have taken over your timeline. Most people believe their reality flows in a straight line, choices leading to consequences, past creating future. But what if the truth is far stranger? What if your attention, your gaze, your act of noticing, is collapsing infinite possibilities into a single repeating pattern? This is the hidden trap of the observer effect. It doesn't just describe how particles behave under observation, it describes how you may be locked into one narrow timeline, replaying the same scenarios, even while infinite others exist just outside your reach. Think of the déjà vu moment, the recurring arguments, the numbers and symbols that stalk you across days. These are not random, they're signals. They whisper that your timeline is no longer flowing freely. It is looping, reinforced each time you unconsciously observe the same outcomes again and again. But here's the deeper truth: you were guided here because the loop can be broken. There is a key hidden in plain sight, and today we will uncover it together. By the end of this journey, you'll not only know if the observer effect has hijacked your reality, you'll also hold the power to reclaim your observer seat and step into a timeline of freedom. So pause, breathe. Notice how these words are already collapsing into your present reality. That's no accident. Your awakening has already begun. Imagine a field of infinite possibilities, a quantum ocean, where every outcome already exists. In this ocean, reality doesn't move in a straight line. It ripples with countless probabilities. A particle is not fixed. It exists as a wave of options, all waiting, all potential. And then something astonishing happens. The moment it is observed, the wave collapses into one single point. One version of reality is chosen, while infinite others fade into the background. This is the essence of the observer effect. It tells us that reality is not solid until awareness touches it. Observation is not passive, it is creative. Your gaze, your attention, your awareness acts like the measuring device in physics experiments. Just as the famous double-slit experiment revealed that light behaves as both wave and particle until someone looks, your own life behaves as both possibility and form until you observe it into shape. Think of it this way. Every time you pay attention, you're not just witnessing reality, you're sculpting it. You collapse one timeline, one scenario, one version of yourself, while countless others remain unseen. And this is where the mystery deepens. If your attention keeps returning to the same fears, the same doubts, the same outcomes, then the observer effect keeps collapsing your reality into a loop of repetition. So the question isn't whether the observer effect is real, the question is, who is holding the observer seat in your life? Are you consciously directing your gaze, or are you unconsciously trapped, collapsing the same reality again and again? In the quantum world, nothing is truly fixed until it is measured. And what is measurement if not focus? When scientists place a detector on the path of a particle, the wave collapses into a point. Without measurement, the wave remains open, fluid, undefined. The same principle governs your life. Your focus is the detector. Your attention is the measurement. Wherever you place it, reality crystallizes. Think about how you notice a single song and suddenly you hear it everywhere. Or how a certain fear dominates your mind and you begin to see proof of it in every corner of your experience. This isn't coincidence. It's the observer effect working through the lens of your focus. Just like the detector in an experiment changes the outcome, your focus changes your world. But here's the paradox. Focus is both your greatest gift and your greatest trap. If left unconscious, it locks you into loops, repeating relationships, recurring failures, déjà vu patterns. The same measurement keeps producing the same reality. But when focus is directed with awareness, it becomes the tool of liberation. You can choose where to place it, which wave to collapse, which version of reality to embody. The truth is, your reality doesn't respond to your wishes, it responds to your focus. Energy follows attention, and attention collapses possibility into form. So if you want to know the future you are creating, don't look at your dreams, look at where your focus lies. Moment to moment, that's the quantum measurement shaping your timeline. How do you know when the observer effect has already begun shaping your timeline? The earliest signs are subtle, almost easy to dismiss, yet they are undeniable. Once you start paying attention, the first is synchronicity, those uncanny alignments that feel too precise to be random. You think of someone, and they call. You imagine a place, and suddenly it appears in your feed. These are not coincidences. They are echoes of your focus collapsing reality into alignment. Synchronicity is the universe whispering, your observation is active. The second sign is repetition symbols and numbers that stalk you across days. Perhaps it's 1111 glowing on the clock, or the same animal crossing your path, or a phrase repeating in different conversations. These are feedback loops. They show you where your focus has locked in, collapsing the same reality again and again. Each appearance is a mirror, reflecting back the measurement you've already made. The third subtle sign is the sensation of being nudged by reality. A song lyric answers your question. A billboard seems to speak directly to you. The world begins to look like a script, and you're no longer sure if you are living life or if life is reading itself through you. This is when the observer effect has gone from hidden to personal. If you've noticed these signs, it means your awareness has already stirred the field. The observer effect is not waiting for the future. It is already alive in your present. And the deeper you look, the more undeniable it becomes. Your timeline is being sculpted by your observation. Have you ever walked into a moment and felt an eerie familiarity, as if you had already lived it before? That is the experience we call déjà vu. Most people dismiss it as a brain glitch, a random misfiring of memory. But what if it's something far deeper? What if déjà vu is evidence that the observer effect has already collapsed you into a repeating timeline? In quantum terms, every observation locks reality into a specific configuration. If your awareness unconsciously returns to the same expectation, the same fear, or the same desire, you collapse the same version of reality again. Déjà vu is the echo of this collapse. It is the sensation of walking the same corridor of probability, replaying the same scene in slightly different clothes. Repeating scenarios are another form of feedback loop. Notice how the same argument resurfaces with different people, or how the same obstacle appears in different jobs or relationships. These are not accidents, they are feedback signals. Each loop is showing you this is where your focus has locked in. Until you shift your observation, the loop continues, reflecting your unconscious measurement back to you. What makes déjà vu and repeating scenarios so haunting is that they pierce the illusion of linear time. They hint that you are not moving forward at all. You are circling within a loop created by your own observation. And the more you ignore the pattern, the more it insists on returning. Déjà vu, then, is not a glitch to be brushed aside. It is a signal. It is the whisper of the quantum field reminding you, you've been here before. Because you keep choosing it. Have you noticed how certain emotions seem to chase you through different chapters of your life? Even when the characters and settings change, you leave one relationship, only to find yourself in another with the same arguments, the same heartbreak. You quit one job, but soon encounter the same frustrations, the same conflicts. These are emotional loops patterns replaying despite your efforts to escape. At the quantum level, your emotions are signals of focus. When you feel fear, anger, or unworthiness, your attention collapses into the same vibrational pocket of reality. You may change the surface of your life, but the underlying observation remains the same. And so the field reflects it back, over and over. The names change. The costumes shift, but the emotion is constant. This is why willpower alone cannot break emotional cycles. You can run, distract, suppress. But as long as your focus is tuned to the same emotional frequency, the observer effect keeps crystallizing it into your reality. Each new situation becomes another mirror, showing you the state you haven't yet shifted. The frustration of living the same emotional loop is not punishment, it's feedback. It's reality saying, look here. This is the observation you keep repeating until you notice. The loop persists. But once you become conscious of the pattern, something shifts. You realize the loop is not chasing you. You are observing it into existence. And the moment you reclaim your observer seat, the emotion loses its grip. What once felt inevitable becomes optional. The cycle begins to dissolve. Why do loops feel so unbreakable, even when you desperately want change? The answer lies in observation bias, the unconscious filter through which you view your life. At the quantum level, what you expect to see becomes what you collapse into reality. And once you believe this always happens to me, your awareness scans for evidence, ignoring what doesn't fit, locking you deeper into the loop. This bias is not malicious. It's mechanical. Your mind is wired to confirm its own expectations, and the field responds by collapsing into them. Imagine wearing tinted glasses. No matter how much the scenery changes, everything you see will carry the same color. Observation bias works the same way. It filters infinite probabilities through the lens of your assumptions, ensuring that you keep collapsing the same version of reality. The more you believe you're trapped, the more your focus searches for proof. And of course, reality obliges delivering familiar outcomes that strengthen the belief. This feedback cycle can last years, even lifetimes, if it's never interrupted. But here's the revelation observation. Bias loses its power the moment you notice it. By becoming aware of the filter, you step outside of it. The loop doesn't break by fighting harder, it breaks by seeing differently, and awareness itself is the quantum shift. Every loop you've ever lived wasn't proof of failure. It was a mirror, showing you the observation you were locked into. And once you reclaim your observer seat, the bias dissolves, the lens clears, and infinite new timelines become available again. There are moments when you feel as though life itself has eyes on you, as if every move you make is being tracked, recorded, evaluated. This isn't paranoia. It's the subtle weight of the observer effect pressing into your daily existence. When the field begins to mirror your awareness, you experience reality not as free flow, but as surveillance. Think about how often you censor yourself. You hesitate before speaking, wondering how it will be perceived. You replay actions in your mind, criticizing yourself as though under an invisible spotlight. This is more than insecurity. It's a symptom of being trapped inside an observed timeline. The energy of being watched follows you because your own observation has locked you into a loop of self-surveillance. It's as if reality itself becomes a stage, and you are the actor constantly aware of the audience. The problem is, the audience is your own unconscious observation, folding back onto itself. You're not being watched by others. You're being watched by the timeline you keep collapsing. This feeling of life watching you creates tension, anxiety, and a constant pressure to perform. You are no longer moving naturally. You are managing perception. And in doing so, you reinforce the loop even further, because every act of self-monitoring is another measurement, another collapse, another confirmation of the same reality. If you've ever felt like your life is under surveillance, know this: it's not madness. It's a signal. It means the observer effect has taken hold, shaping not only what happens around you but how you move within it. Sometimes life unfolds with such eerie precision that it feels less like spontaneity and more like a script. The right person enters at the exact wrong moment. A conversation you feared unfolds, word for word, as though rehearsed. Entire days feel like déjà vu strung together, scenes replayed with new faces, but the same storyline. This is not imagination. This is the observer effect, writing reality in real time. When your observation is locked into a specific expectation, life begins to bend toward it, arranging characters and events with surgical precision. The script you sense is the echo of your own observation bias, collapsing possibilities into the same sequence again and again. Think about the coincidences too perfect to ignore the stranger who delivers the message you've been obsessing over, the sudden opportunity that mirrors your old fear, the chance meeting that feels staged. These alignments aren't random, they're rehearsed by the quantum field according to your focus. The danger of living inside a script is that spontaneity disappears. You no longer experience the freshness of life. You experience predictability disguised as destiny. The lines feel pre-written, and you are left wondering, am I choosing my path? Or am I acting out a role already decided by unconscious observation? But recognizing the script is the first crack in its power. The moment you see that life is mirroring your locked focus, the loop weakens. Awareness tears the page, freeing you to improvise again. And that freedom is the beginning of reclaiming your timeline. There are moments when reality itself seems to stutter like a film reel skipping a frame. You misplace an object, only to find it later in the very spot you swore you had searched. A phrase appears in conversation that you could swear belonged to a memory from another version of your life. These glitches are not accidents. They are cracks in the illusion, signs that your timeline is bending under the weight of repeated observation. One of the most famous examples is the Mandela effect, collective memory of events that never happened in this version of reality. People remember logos differently, movie lines that don't exist, or even historical details rewritten. This isn't faulty memory, it's evidence of timeline shifts. It's as if multiple versions of reality are brushing against each other, and your awareness flickers between them. Repeating outcomes are another kind of glitch. You change your approach, but life delivers the same result. You move to a new city, but the same problems meet you there. The surface changes, but the underlying collapse is identical. This is reality's way of showing you until you shift your observation, the glitch remains. Glitches disturb us because they break the illusion of stability. They reveal that life is less solid than it appears, that timelines are not linear highways, but fragile threads woven by attention. And the more you notice glitches, the more you realize you are living inside a scripted loop, not a free flow. But here's the hidden gift: glitches are invitations. They are the field whispering, "Wake up. You're not trapped. You're observing this loop so you can choose again." Here's the truth. Most people never hear your timeline isn't truly yours unless you hold the observer's seat. You may believe you are the author of your life, making choices and shaping outcomes. But if your awareness is hijacked, if your observation is unconscious, reactive, or driven by fear, then your timeline is being written for you, not by you. The observer effect doesn't stop working just because you aren't paying attention. In fact, that's when it becomes most dangerous. When you surrender your awareness, external forces, social conditioning, past wounds, collective fears step in and collapse reality on your behalf. You live a script designed by programming you didn't choose. And because you're still observing, you unconsciously reinforce the very loops you want to escape. This is why life can feel scripted, repetitive, even suffocating. You're inside a movie you didn't consciously direct. The illusion of free will remains. You still make decisions, but those decisions are shaped by unconscious observation, narrowing your timeline into a loop. The hidden truth is this: ownership of your timeline comes only when you reclaim the observer's seat. Until then, you're not living your life, you're being lived by it. You're not the one choosing, you're the one being chosen by default. This realization is shocking, even uncomfortable, but it's also liberating, because once you see that your timeline is not truly yours, you also see the path back to sovereignty. You are the observer. You always have been. You only forgot. Here is the paradox at the heart of the observer effect. The harder you resist, the stronger the loop becomes. Most people sense something is wrong. They feel trapped in repetition, and their instinct is to fight. to push against it, to break free by force. But resistance is still observation, and observation, no matter how charged, collapses the same reality again and again. Think about a fear you desperately want to avoid. The more you resist it, the more your focus locks onto it. You replay it in your mind, prepare for it, guard against it. And in doing so, you give it constant observation. The loop tightens. What you resist persists not because life is cruel, but because your attention is the measurement that keeps collapsing it. This is why some people live decades circling the same problems. Their resistance feeds the very energy they want to escape. Every never again becomes another, here it is again. The observer effect does not respond to intention, it responds to attention. And attention steeped in resistance is still attention. The shocking truth is that resistance doesn't break loops, it reinforces them. Fighting a loop is like pulling on quicksand. The harder you struggle, the deeper you sink. What breaks the loop is not resistance, but release. When you stop feeding it observation, when you soften your focus, when you let go, the loop loses fuel. Only then can the wave of possibility open again. So if you feel trapped, pause it. Notice the resistance itself. That awareness is the first step out of the cage. Here lies the revelation that most never suspect. Surrender, not control, is the only way to break free from observer hijacking. The more you try to micromanage reality, the more you collapse it into the very loops you are trying to escape. Control is still resistance, and resistance fuels repetition. Surrender is different. It is not giving up, it is letting go. It is the act of releasing your death grip on outcomes and allowing the field of possibility to breathe again. When you surrender, you stop collapsing the same wave over and over. You allow new probabilities to open timelines you could never access while clinging to the old. Think about a moment in your life when you finally released control, when you stopped fighting, and suddenly everything shifted. The relationship you clung to dissolved, and in its absence, freedom emerged. The job you feared losing disappeared, and in the space it left, a better path appeared. Surrender opens the doorway that resistance blocks. At the quantum level, surrender is coherence. Instead of scattering your focus in fear and control, you align with the field. Your observation softens, and in that softening, reality has space to reorganize. Paradoxically, it is in surrender that your true power is revealed, not as a controller of outcomes, but as the conscious observer of infinite possibilities. This is the hidden key. You don't break loops by effort. You break them by surrender. You let go of the old measurement, and the field responds with something new. And in that moment, hijacked observation dissolves, and you reclaim your seat. At the quantum level, everything is vibration. Resistance scatters that vibration. It fragments your focus into tension, worry, and control. Coherence, on the other hand, gathers your energy into alignment. It's the difference between noise and harmony, static and music. And this difference determines whether you are trapped in the same loop or opening into new timelines. When you resist, your observation is jagged. You collapse the same outcomes because your focus keeps circling the same fears. The field mirrors that fragmentation, producing realities filled with struggle, friction, and repetition. Resistance locks you into survival mode, and survival mode only knows how to repeat what feels familiar. But when you surrender, coherence begins. Your attention softens, your energy aligns, and suddenly the field can reorganize around you. Coherence doesn't force outcomes, it allows them. It creates harmony between your inner state and the infinite probabilities surrounding you. In coherence, new possibilities naturally rise to the surface because your observation is no longer fractured. This is why surrender opens new timelines. It's not mystical, it's mechanical. Resistance keeps you stuck in a closed loop. Coherence opens the wave of probability again. In coherence, you stop collapsing the same old version of reality and allow the field to reveal a new one. Think of it like tuning a radio. Resistance keeps you locked on a static-filled station. No matter how long you listen, the noise doesn't change. Coherence is turning the dial, finding the clear signal, and suddenly music flows. The music was always there. You just needed to shift the frequency. So the invitation is simple: release resistance, embody coherence. That shift alone rewrites your timeline. One of the most radical shifts you can make is moving your focus from seeking external confirmation to cultivating inner coherence. Most of us are trained to look outside ourselves for proof that we're on the right path, approval from others, visible success, signs that life is working out. But in doing so, we unconsciously hand our observer seat to the external world. We collapse reality based on what we hope to see out there, rather than anchoring in the power within. The truth is, the external world can never provide lasting confirmation. It is only a mirror, reflecting the state of your own observation. If your inner world is fragmented, the mirror will show chaos. If your focus is scattered in fear, the mirror will echo struggle. But when you cultivate coherence within, when your thoughts, emotions, and awareness line up in harmony, the mirror has no choice but to reflect clarity back to you. This is the essence of reclaiming the observer's seat. It means no longer asking, "What does the world say about me?" but instead, anchoring into the knowing I create from coherence. Your power is not in chasing signs. It is in becoming the source of alignment that makes signs inevitable. The shift is subtle but life-altering. External proof may fluctuate, but inner coherence is steady. And from that steadiness, reality reorganizes. The timeline is no longer hijacked by the need for outside validation. It is guided by the centeredness of your true observation. Reclaiming your observer seat isn't just a lofty concept, it's a practice. And like any practice, it's built through small, consistent actions that bring you back to awareness. 3 of the most powerful tools are deceptively simple: breath, silence, and intentional awareness. Breath is your anchor. Every inhale and exhale is proof that you are here, in this moment, observing. When life feels chaotic, return to the breath. Feel it slow you down, soften resistance, and reset your focus. Breath interrupts the loop by pulling you back from unconscious observation into conscious presence. Silence is your reset. In a world saturated with noise, silence is radical. It is in stillness that the field becomes audible. When you step away from constant stimulation, you create space for reality to reorganize. Silence is not emptiness, it's the fertile void where new timelines can emerge. Intentional awareness is your compass. Most people move through life on autopilot, observing without realizing. They are observing. But when you direct your awareness with intention, when you choose what to notice, you reclaim the steering wheel. Intentional awareness means no longer collapsing reality unconsciously, but sculpting it deliberately. Together, these practices rewire the way you observe. They return your power from the external script to your inner center. And though they may seem small, practiced daily, they become seismic. The loop doesn't break with grand gestures. It breaks with breath, silence, and awareness, repeated until they form a new rhythm of being. That rhythm is coherence, and coherence is the foundation of your freedom. Control is the greatest illusion we chase. We tighten our grip on outcomes, believing that if we manage every detail, we can finally feel safe. But in quantum terms, control is just another form of resistance. And as we've seen, resistance collapses the same reality again and again. When you demand control, you force reality into a narrow channel. You monitor, adjust, manipulate only to find yourself exhausted and still circling the same loops. The irony is that control doesn't create safety, it creates stagnation. Life becomes rigid, predictable, scripted. Flow begins the moment you release the need to control. Flow is not passivity, it's responsiveness. It's aligning so deeply with the field that you no longer fight against it, but move with it. In flow, observation becomes effortless. Instead of collapsing the same reality through fear, you allow reality to expand through coherence. Think of a river. Control is damming the water, straining to hold it still. Flow is removing the dam, trusting the current, letting the river carry you to places you couldn't reach on your own. The transition from control to flow is the essence of reclaiming your observer seat. It's choosing presence over management, trust over tension. And when you live in flow, your timeline stops being hijacked by unconscious resistance. It becomes alive, adaptive, surprising exactly as life was always meant to be. True freedom is not mastering control. It is mastering release. And in that release, you rediscover your natural state, the observer moving effortlessly with the flow of reality. One of the most powerful ways to anchor a new timeline is to act as if it is already real. This doesn't mean pretending or faking, it means embodying the frequency of the version of you who has already shifted. In quantum terms, reality responds not to what you want, but to what you are. When you live as if, you collapse the wave into alignment with your new state of being. Think of it like tuning a radio. You don't wait for the music to play before you turn the dial. You turn the dial first, and the station comes through. Acting as if is turning the dial of your life. You embody the energy now, and reality begins to broadcast it back to you. For example, if your new timeline is one of freedom, begin moving as if you are already free. Speak with the voice of freedom. Make choices that align with freedom, not recklessly, but with coherence. The external world may lag behind, but the field always catches up to the vibration you embody. The mistake most people make is waiting. They say, once I see proof, then I'll believe. But that's not how the observer effect works. Proof is not the cause, it's the echo. Belief and embodiment come first. Then reality reflects it. When you act as if, you stop begging reality for confirmation. You declare yourself the source. And in that declaration, the new timeline locks in not someday, but now. Acting as if is the first step, but embodiment deepens when your daily choices begin to align with the new observer stance. Every choice you make is a measurement, a collapse of possibility into form. And so each choice is either reinforcing the old timeline or solidifying the new. Think of your decisions as declarations. When you choose out of fear, you declare, I am still the old observer. When you choose from coherence, you declare, I am anchored in the new. These declarations ripple through the field, reorganizing events, opportunities, and relationships to match your stance. This doesn't require dramatic changes. In fact, it's the small choices that carry the most power. Choosing rest instead of burnout. Choosing honesty instead of self-censorship. Choosing alignment over approval. Each of these acts tells the field, this is who I am now. And the field responds by reshaping reality to fit. The challenge is that the old timeline will test you. It will present familiar scenarios, tempting you to choose, as you always have. But this is not punishment, it's confirmation. The loop is asking, will you collapse me again? Or will you choose differently this time? When your choices consistently reflect your new observer stance, the timeline stabilizes. Reality begins to feel lighter, freer, more aligned, because it is no longer scripted by unconscious loops. It is authored by the choices of the conscious observer you. When you reclaim your observer seat, something profound shifts. Life no longer feels like it is watching you. You feel yourself watching life. The invisible surveillance dissolves, and in its place arises sovereignty. You are no longer a character performing for an unseen audience. You are the chooser, the author, the one holding the pen. In a hijacked timeline, every move feels scrutinized. You second-guess yourself, edit your words, and shape your choices to match the script you think reality demands. But this is a false power dynamic. Reality is not judging you, it is reflecting you. Once you embody the new stance, the reflection changes. You realize you are not under surveillance, you were simply observing unconsciously, and mistaking that for being observed. Freedom comes when you flip this dynamic. Instead of asking, "What does life expect from me?" you declare, "What do I choose to observe into being?" This reversal breaks the spell of the loop. Suddenly, your choices are not reactions to imagined scrutiny. They are proactive collapses of new possibilities. This shift is not subtle. It is seismic. You move from survival to authorship, from self-surveillance to self-sovereignty, and as you embody this truth, the field responds. Life stops feeling like a cage of repetition and starts unfolding like an open canvas. Living free from surveillance is not about escaping attention, it's about reclaiming it. You no longer perform under the gaze of reality. You meet reality eye to eye, as its conscious co-creator. Awakening is never a private event. The moment one person reclaims the observer's seat, the shift radiates outward. This is because consciousness is not isolated. It exists within a shared quantum field, what some call the morphic field. Every thought, every observation, every act of coherence contributes to this collective field, influencing the probabilities available not just to you, but to all of us. Think of a tuning fork. When one fork vibrates, it can set another into motion without ever touching it. Awakening works the same way. When you embody coherence, your frequency resonates into the morphic field, nudging others toward alignment. One person's liberation makes it easier for the next to awaken, and the next after that. This is why personal awakening carries such immense responsibility and such immense hope. Your shift is not only for you, it ripples into the collective, adding strength to the wave of transformation sweeping through humanity. The more observers reclaim their seat, the more the collective timeline reorganizes toward freedom, clarity, and awakening. And here is the hidden beauty: you don't need to force anyone else to awaken. Your embodiment is the spark. By simply being coherent, you seed coherence into the field. By observing consciously, you invite others to remember their own observer's seat. Personal awakening is therefore not selfish, it is service. Every time you shift, you are helping to rewrite the morphic field for all. And in that truth lies one of the greatest revelations. Your liberation is inseparable from humanity's. Awakening is not isolated, it is exponential. When a few individuals reclaim their observer seat, the field shifts subtly. But as more awaken, something extraordinary begins to happen. Timelines start to merge. The collective field moves from fragmentation toward coherence, and the effect ripples across humanity. At first, these shifts appear as subtle changes. Old systems falter, new possibilities emerge, synchronicities increase on a global scale. But as coherence grows, the changes accelerate. The collective loop begins to dissolve, and humanity as a whole steps into new probabilities. Once locked away, this merging of timelines doesn't erase individuality, it amplifies it. Each person who awakens contributes a unique frequency to the collective harmony. Just as an orchestra doesn't lose instruments when they play in tune, humanity doesn't lose diversity when coherence rises. Instead, the music becomes richer, clearer, more powerful. The danger of fragmentation is that it keeps humanity trapped in repeating loop cycles of conflict, fear, and division. But when enough observers awaken, the field reorganizes. Division gives way to resonance. Chaos gives way to clarity. The timelines that once branched into endless conflict converge toward higher coherence. This is why your awakening matters. It's not just about personal freedom, it's about the direction of the collective. Every time you choose coherence over resistance, you strengthen the probability of a coherent world. Every observer who awakens makes it easier for others to see the script and step out of it. The future is not fixed, it's fluid. And as more of us awaken, the fluidity begins to flow in the same direction toward freedom, harmony, and awakening at scale. It's easy to feel small in the face of global change. You might wonder, what difference could my awakening possibly make? But here is the profound truth. Your role is not just important, it's essential. The collective cannot awaken without the individuals who compose it, and you are one of them. The observer effect teaches us that reality responds to observation. This is not limited to personal reality. It extends into the collective field. Every act of awareness you embody, every choice you make from coherence, rather than fear, adds weight to the probability of humanity's awakening. You are not just a witness of change, you are a contributor, a catalyst, a spark. Think of a fire. One flame may seem small, but it has the power to ignite the entire forest. Your awakening is that flame, and when combined with countless others, the blaze becomes unstoppable. This is the hope point. You don't need to control the entire world. You don't need to awaken everyone. You only need to embody your observer seat fully here and now. That embodiment radiates into the morphic field, where it cannot help but inspire others. Humanity's awakening is not waiting for leaders, systems, or saviors. It is waiting for you and for each of us to remember who we are. When you reclaim your observer seat, you not only free yourself from loops, you help dissolve the collective loop of humanity. Your role is not small. It is sacred. And in embracing it, you become the hope of the future already unfolding. There is one truth you must hold close. Awakening is irreversible. Once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you reclaim your observer seat, you cannot truly return to unconsciousness. You may stumble, you may forget for a while, but the memory of awakening never disappears. It becomes the compass pulling you back, again and again, toward coherence. This is why collective awakening is unstoppable. Every individual who awakens adds momentum to the field, making it harder for humanity to fall back into full unconsciousness. Just as a flame cannot be turned back into a spark, consciousness cannot be reduced once it has expanded. The morphic field itself evolves, carrying the imprint of every awakened observer. The old loops may try to reassert themselves, cycles of fear, conflict, control, but they are weakening. Their grip loosens with every observer who refuses to collapse reality in the old way. And once a critical mass awakens, the collective field tips. The loop breaks not just for the individuals, but for humanity as a whole. This is the hope woven into the structure of reality. The shift cannot be undone. Once coherence rises, it echoes forward through time, reshaping probability itself. So if you've felt despair about the state of the world, remember this: the awakening has already begun, and it cannot be stopped. Your role in it matters, but the outcome is assured. Humanity is moving toward coherence, toward liberation, toward remembering its true power. As the collective observer, the shift is not coming someday, it is happening now, and nothing can reverse it. Take a breath. Notice how far you've come. You didn't arrive here by accident. You arrived because the observer effect has been shaping your days and you are ready to take the seat back. What began as a whisper-odd synchronicities, repeating numbers, a strange sense of being watched has revealed itself as the mechanism scripting your life. You now understand the core principle: focus is measurement. Wherever your attention lands, probability collapses. Unconscious focus becomes observation bias, and bias breeds loops. That is why déjà vu returns, why old emotions reassemble, why conversations unfold like lines on a stage. You weren't cursed, you were consistent. The field only mirrored the measurement you kept making. The shock point is simple, and uncompromising. Your timeline isn't truly yours if you aren't in the observer's seat. Resistance cannot free you, it feeds the loop. Control cannot save you, it narrows the channel. Surrender is the key that unlocks coherence. In surrender, your energy gathers, your perception softens, and new probabilities are allowed to appear. You also have the practices that make this tangible. Breath brings you back now. Silence clears the static. Intentional awareness points your gaze like a compass. You shift from external proof to inner alignment, from managing to allowing. You act as if the shift is embodied, and then you make choices that match it: small, honest, coherent. repeated, and as embodiment stabilizes, the world begins to answer differently. Life stops feeling like surveillance and starts becoming collaboration. Flow replaces strain. The mirror brightens. What once repeated now releases, because the observer who kept measuring the old outcome no longer sits in your seat. You are in your seat. You are authoring again. Remember, your awakening is personal and planetary. Your coherence seeds the morphic field. As more of us reclaim the seat, timelines converge toward clarity, compassion, and creative power. The shift is irreversible. You may forget for a moment, but the compass will keep calling you home to presence, to sovereignty, to the truth of who you are. Now claim it out loud. Declare in the comments, and whisper it to your own heart. I choose to observe from freedom. I choose coherence over resistance. I choose my timeline. Share the loop you're done collapsing, and the first small choice you'll make today in alignment. Invite someone you love to take their seat beside you. Before you go, pause for one more breath. Feel the subtle click as reality rearranges around your decision. Let the old measurement fall silent. Let the field show you what it can do when it isn't being forced to repeat itself. Walk forward gently, eyes open, attention steady. Notice the music where there was static, the ease where there was effort, the space where there was pressure. Keep returning to breath, silence, and intentional awareness. Keep choosing from the center. This is how you live beyond surveillance and into authorship. This is how you become the proof you once chased. Welcome to your new timeline.